The shouting is already fading when the wood scrapes across stone. A body stumbles. Hands pull. Breath turns sharp and shallow. Dust rises and settles on open mouths. Some faces turn away. Others stare, frozen as if looking might protect them. A cry breaks, then stops. The crowd tightens, then loosens. Silence follows like a shadow. In moments like this, fear is not loud. It is heavy, and it leaves behind a question that refuses to rest. How did this become ordinary?
This is a crucifixion in the 30s AD. Not a sudden act of rage, not a public accident, but a procedure, a system.
The Roman state has decided that one body will carry a message for thousands. The sentence is not meant to be quick. It is meant to be seen. The cross stands at the edge of the city where roads converge and travelers pass. Everyone must understand what resistance costs. When the body is lifted, something else breaks as well. The belief that power needs to explain itself ends here.
You are watching what power looked like in the 1st century.
It is tempting to imagine this world is already broken, as if cruelty were the natural condition of ancient life. That idea is comforting. It tells us distance protects us. But the years around 30 AD were not a time of collapse. They were a time of order. Roads were maintained. Markets thrived. Law was visible and enforced. The empire promised peace through control, and for many, that promise seemed real. Jerusalem bustled with pilgrims and traders. Coins changed hands. Ideas moved faster than armies. Stability existed, and that is precisely why the cross shocked so deeply. It tore through a society that believed itself managed. Crucifixion did not appear as chaos. It emerged as administration. This world ran on structure. Taxes flowed upward. Grain flowed outward. Messages traveled along stone roads that stitched provinces together. Cities were nodes in a vast network of exchange. The success of this system depended on predictability. Obedience was rewarded with access, safety, and trade. Dissent threatened the balance. A single voice could ripple across the roots of empire. Rome understood this. Control had to be visible, repeatable, and unforgettable. The cross was the architecture of fear made wood and iron. The practice itself came from far beyond this city. Long before Jerusalem, long before Rome, states learned that pain could instruct. The body became a surface on which authority could write. The method was refined until it was efficient at producing terror. The process begins with exposure. The condemned is stripped of privacy, of dignity, of time. The body strains to breathe. Each movement becomes a negotiation. There is no blade to end it. Only waiting. Biology becomes the executioner slowly, relentlessly, while the world watches.
Every execution began long before the cross was raised.
When the procession leaves the streets and moves beyond the walls, the city exhales. Outside, the ground is open. There is room to see. This is not hidden violence. This is instruction. The site is chosen so that memory will attach itself to the landscape. Travelers will carry the image forward. Merchants will whisper about it at the next stop. The cross becomes a portal, not only for death, but for stories that multiply fear.
This was meant to be seen.
As crosses appear across regions, the effect spreads faster than soldiers. News outruns orders. Silence becomes a strategy. Families avoid attention. Conversations shorten. Paths change. Bodies linger in view as warnings long after life has left them. The city continues, but it does so cautiously, as if every step were being measured. The cost of error feels higher than the cost of obedience. Confusion grows, not because rules are unclear, but because survival requires anticipation of invisible lines. People search for meaning in the suffering. Some call it divine will. Others call it necessary order. Explanations bloom where understanding fails. Knowledge of the body is limited, and so pain is framed as moral. Endurance is praised. Submission is taught. Attempts to resist are remembered only through the consequences they bring. In trying to make sense of terror, people help normalize it.
The cross killed one man and disciplined thousands.
Over time, something quieter collapses. Trust thins. Neighbors watch one another carefully. Allegiances are hidden. The law remains, but the spirit beneath it frays. When survival depends on invisibility, connection becomes dangerous. Parents teach children how not to be noticed. Silence becomes inheritance. The spectacle of death does not end with the body. It seeps into daily choices, into gestures, into the way eyes avoid one another.
When fear rules a society, someone always becomes expendable.
As desperation deepens, blame sharpens. Groups already standing at the edges are pushed further out. Difference becomes threat. Rumors harden into accusations. Violence finds moral language and calls itself protection. The cross, once an extreme measure, now sits inside a wider climate of suspicion. The machinery of control expands, fed by panic as much as by policy. Beyond the cities, the effect continues. Roads empty, villages shrink, fields go untilled. Nature presses into spaces left behind. The Empire's message reaches places soldiers never do. Absence becomes another marker of power. The world grows quieter, not because peace has arrived, but because people have learned when not to move. Eventually, the intensity fades, not through mercy, but through exhaustion. The spectacle loses its edge. The system adjusts. Other methods rise. The cross recedes, leaving behind a landscape altered by memory. What remains is not victory, but residue. Trauma does not announce its departure. It settles.
Rome believed the message was finished. History disagreed.
In the aftermath, meanings shift. What was designed to erase becomes a symbol that endures. Stories are retold. Suffering is reframed. The cross moves from instrument to idea. Economies adjust. Beliefs realign. A new world forms atop the scars of the old, carrying forward lessons it does not fully understand. Time alters the way violence is remembered. Distance softens edges, and repetition turns shock into reference. In later retellings, the physical strain of the cross is often reduced to a single moment, a single image, a single nail. But for those who lived under its shadow, the experience was prolonged and communal. The suffering unfolded across hours and days, and its audience was not passive. Every passerby was drafted into the lesson. Every glance reinforced the rule. The condemned did not suffer alone. Neither did the city.
For the traveler moving through these years, patterns emerge. Authority relies on predictability, and predictability relies on fear that can be trusted to perform.
The cross performed. It delivered consistency in a world stretched thin by distance and diversity. It required no translation. Pain spoke a universal language.
That universality is what made it effective, and what made it contagious.
Once learned, the lesson could be applied elsewhere, in new forms, with new tools. The memory of crucifixion also reshaped faith. For some, it deepened obedience. For others, it sparked quiet resistance, carried in stories told behind closed doors. Suffering took on meaning beyond control. Hope, too, adapted. It became quieter, less visible, but more persistent. In that tension, new identities formed. The state tried to close a chapter. People opened another. Standing between eras, watching the same logic repeat with different materials. The traveler notices how rarely power questions itself.
It refines. It rebrands. It insists on necessity.
The cross was necessary. The order was necessary. The message was necessary. Each generation inherits these claims and decides how loudly to believe them. Some accept. Some comply. Some remember. The experience of crucifixion in the 30s AD was not only about death, it was about conditioning. It trained populations to calculate risk, to measure speech, to weigh visibility. It taught people how to survive inside systems that demanded silence. Those lessons outlasted the wood and iron. They traveled forward, embedded in culture, law, and memory. To observe this moment is to feel the weight of continuity. The past is not gone. It is layered beneath the present, shaping instincts and institutions. When we trace the scars, we find not only what was done, but how it was justified. And justification, once learned, is easy to reuse.
The methods change. The logic rarely does.
To look at crucifixion in the 30s AD is to confront how order is maintained when authority fears instability. It asks whether distance in time absolves us from recognition. We prefer to believe we are different. We prefer to think spectacle belongs to the past. But power still teaches. Bodies are still used to send messages. The forms are cleaner now. The intent remains familiar. It is a reminder carried across centuries, waiting patiently for societies to notice the pattern repeating. Even when the symbols change and the stage appears modern again, to understand power, we must look where it left scars.